Blake Lively was spotted this weekend in her happy place, which apparently is also when she grabs her co-stars without permission.
Nuts. And you really went for it, too.
That's always awkward. And you're like, hey, hi, nice to meet you. Can I grab your nuts?
Ryan Reynolds is losing it. Once again, there's a brand new Blake Lively scandal blowing up. This time because she's getting way too touchy with co-star Henry Golding. From emotional flings to straight-up groping, Blake stays messy. Honestly, with Ryan's own shady track record, these two disasters basically deserve each other.
Between the nut grab and the literal product placement of her husband's cheat on this thing, it's all so ridiculous.
Let's talk about the Henry Golding situation, because when Blake Lively isn't busy calling out men for misconduct, she's actually on record bragging about grabbing her co-star's stuff. No, I wish I were kidding. In the A Simple Favor director's commentary, Blake casually, like it's no big deal, mentions how she gripped Henry Golding's crotch with some serious force. So classy, right?
She just can't help herself. And to see that she's willing to do that, she'll grab him.
That commentary is beyond uncomfortable. It feels like watching HR violations happen in real time. No intimacy coordinator, no professional boundaries. Just Blake openly laughing about groping her co-star. And the highlight? Henry Golding's expression speaks volumes. He's clearly uneasy, clearly not thrilled, and clearly just trying to soldier through without triggering a PR nightmare.
Wait, so am I blaming my husband for
am I saying he killed her?
This is one of my favorite additions that you came up with. I think it's nuts. And you really went for it, too.
That's always awkward. And you're like, hey, hi, nice to meet you. Can I grab your nuts?
Because let's face it, if the roles were reversed and a male actor joked about grabbing a woman like that, his career would vanish faster than you can say canceled. But not Blake. Nope, she gets to chuckle it off, plug her husband's aviation gin mid-commentary, and keep surfing that phony feminist wave. Apparently, her version of empowerment includes groping co-stars and turning serious boundary crossing into a punchline.
Really hard.
But really hard? Exactly.
Not because I want to, because I feel like she would.
Remember we kept going like, can you...
Not because I want to, because she would. I'm just gonna grab your nuts really hard, okay?
And while all that was going down, the same woman had the nerve, yes, the actual nerve, to accuse Justin Baldoni of inappropriate behavior.
I kept going, can you do it harder?
Yeah, and that was my tip of the hat to Baby Jane Hudson.
Yes.
When she's spinning on the beach at the end.
Oh, it's so great. Then you ADR'd a little extra, like, the little laughs and stuff. It's fantastic.
Girl, sit down. This is where the double standard gets insulting. Because if Blake's doing the grabbing, it's quirky and funny. But if a man, who she specifically invited to her penthouse, makes a comment about her self-tanner, he's suddenly the devil. That's not justice.
Is that Aviation American gin again?
Wow.
Shameless.
Truly shameless. Truly shameless.
Oh my God.
This isn't trauma. This is weaponizing your gender and playing victim when it suits your PR machine. That resurfaced golden clip didn't just age badly, it torched Blake's entire credibility.
I want dividends.
Yeah, I don't think he's kidding. He deserves dividends, and Henry Golding's face says it all. Between the nut grab and the literal product placement of her husband's cheat on this thing, it's all so ridiculous.
But hey, speaking of things that age poorly, let's rewind to 2015.
The irony of all this is so strange, given that, she's the one who made the weird Black History slavery muffins for $168 back in 2015. She's also the one who made the boob cake. She is a very inappropriate baker.
Yes, the same Blake Lively who filed legal documents saying she's too traumatized to leave her house once thought it was a genius plan to sell Black History-themed blueberry muffin kits. For a mere $168, you too could experience her romanticized version of slavery-era Southern blues, complete with sugary nostalgia and pretty pastel fonts. Because nothing screams honoring Black history like baked goods and cutesy packaging.
Yes, she also made a boob cake for her 1-year-old, because what else do they want but a boob cake? He can't declare what he wants, so boobs. Haha. All of this, again, so inappropriate given what she's alleging in her complaints.
And if only that were her lone baking offense, but nope. She also decided it was cute to bake a boob cake for her 1-year-old daughter.
Yeah. Food is probably the most central part of my life, Lively previously told Vogue. Food and family, but those are completely intertwined because food was so important to me growing up since my mom is an amazing cook. So
the kid can't even talk yet, much less ask for a boob-shaped treat. But who cares about age-appropriate boundaries when you're chasing Instagram likes? Fast forward to March 30th, and Blake is smiling for the cameras inside a Connecticut bakery, calling it her happy place. You mean the bakery she conveniently waltzed into for a whole PR shoot? That one? She's there in full glam, laughing it up with bakers, while her legal filings claim she can't get out of bed from trauma. Blake, sweetie, pick a lane. You can't say you're consumed by grief, fear, and anxiety one week, then pose like the queen of baked goods the next. This isn't just tone deaf, it's calculated. It's what happens when you want to look like a victim only when it's convenient. She changes her story depending on who's filming. That so-called happy place footage doesn't show a woman wrestling with trauma. It shows someone rehearsing her next brand partnership. Her pain, packaged for profit, her suffering, market tested, and that lawsuit, just another way to steer the storyline. Also, there's Blake Lively allegedly falling for her It Ends With Us co-star, Justin Baldoni. This wasn't just some minor whoopsie of method acting run amok. No, Blake apparently dove straight into emotional affair territory. Word is she was laughing until she cried on set with Baldoni. You know, that type of giggle that's too flirty, too personal, and just plain yikes. And it didn't end there. She invited Baldoni, a married guy by the way, to her penthouse, not just for a cup of tea. No, she was literally holding her infant while cozying up to him. Like what? Who does that? Imagine the nerve. She's married, he's married, and there's a baby in the room, like it's all super wholesome. But sure, let's keep pretending Blake's the wounded party. Oh, and if you assume this is some random internet conspiracy, nope. It got addressed in the documentary He Said, She Said, where journalist Mia Shaker basically confirmed the emotional spark between Blake and Baldoni. Not only that, but Blake tried to hammer him with a sexual harassment claim. Yep, that happened. Baldoni came back swinging. He filed a civil extortion and defamation suit, implying that her accusations were more about revenge than truth. Apparently, they had creative squabbles during filming, and Blake, who loves going overboard, chose to scorch his career instead. Also, are we honestly shocked? This isn't Blake's first dance with co-star crushes. Remember Penn Badgley in Gossip Girl, then Ben Affleck in The Town? There's a pattern. Blake joins a project, sparks ignite, and suddenly it's all deep connection this, and he really gets me that. Girl, maybe the problem isn't your scene partners, maybe it's you. Meanwhile, Ryan Reynolds, poor Deadpool himself, supposedly went ballistic when he found out. Sources say he threatened to burn down his entire house and her career. That's not just a meltdown, it's a total system crash. But can you blame him? His whole image is the devoted husband, the perfect dad, the internet's favorite Canadian. Then Blake shows up, smashing through all that PR with her penthouse playdates and crocodile tears. But let's not pretend Ryan's Mr. Maturity. According to Candace Owens, he's less wounded spouse and more control freak. He didn't just lose it, he went total dictator mode. Supposedly, he pushed for a gag order to hush the drama, not to heal the family, not to protect anyone, just to keep the Reynolds brand spotless. He apparently drove the lawsuit not because he cared about justice, but to punish Blake, not to salvage their marriage, not to guard their 4 kids, just to do damage because his pristine social media image was falling apart. This isn't love, it's brand control on steroids. And then there's the media spin. Because of course there is. Ryan's camp allegedly rushed a hit piece on Baldoni in the New York Times. Yeah, the real paper, without letting Baldoni even submit his footage. Stellar journalism, right? They acted like it was a 5-alarm emergency, just to paint Baldoni as the villain and Blake as the traumatized starlet. Please. But the worst part? While this entire spectacle was blowing up, Ryan was also micromanaging Blake's public persona. Like filing lawsuits wasn't enough, he wanted her smiling for the cameras too. You cheated, you lied, you set off a PR inferno, but hey babe, don't forget to post that cute baking video on Instagram, okay? The whole thing feels wildly off. And Blake, let's examine that hypocrisy for a minute. This is the same woman sobbing in her court docs about how traumatized she is, can't leave the house, can't get out of bed, racked with fear and anxiety every day. Yet she's also magically able to show up at bakeries, crack jokes with co-stars, and grab a dude's junk and commentary like she's on an SNL sketch. Girl, decide who you are. Are you a fragile wreck? Or are you the PR-loving pastry queen who can't keep her hands to herself? Honestly, this entire circus is a reminder that the Hollywood couples we idolize are just messy people with better lighting and even better lawyers. Blake Lively tried to play every angle, from romanticizing a real emotional fling to posing as a misunderstood victim. And Ryan, instead of facing his pain like a grown-up, used every legal and media trick in the book. Not to mend his marriage, but to protect his image and scorch anyone who stood in his way. So let's stop acting like this is a heartbreaking love story gone wrong. It's a disaster fueled by Blake's ego, Ryan's insecurity, and their shared obsession with fame at all costs. 4 kids, a billion-dollar brand, and 2 giant egos colliding in the most toxic Hollywood meltdown we've seen in a while. And guess what? I'm not even surprised. Now let's move on to the real roasting by Candace Owens. Say whatever you will about her, but in this scenario, she didn't pull any punches. She went after Ryan and Blake like a verbal wrecking ball. Owens flat out branded Ryan a manipulative narcissist, which fair. Then she swung a sledgehammer at Blake's whole public persona. According to Owens, Blake isn't a victim. She's a total fake. The kind of person who acts helpless while secretly pulling strings behind the scenes. And Owens wasn't just talking, she came with receipts. How do you cry about emotional trauma and harassment, yet invite the supposed harasser into your fancy penthouse and let him hold your baby? Sorry, that's not terror. That's a buddy move, or more. And when it all blew up, Blake decided to paint herself as the innocent party again. Owens did not hold back. She called the lawsuit what it is: payback, not justice. Blake didn't file because she was in danger. She filed because she lost control of the narrative. Then Ryan jumped in, not to protect Blake, but to burn Baldoni's career to the ground. Owens even called Blake Amber Heard 2.0, and honestly, she might have a point. There's a specific breed of Hollywood narcissist who flips between being a victim and a villain, depending on which headline sells better. And Blake is performing that role like she's after an Oscar. The best part? Owens naming her a Hollywood bully. Because that's exactly it. She doesn't just manipulate people, she targets them. She expects the media, her fans, and her PR pros to wipe up the mess every time. She tries to cancel folks like Baldoni for daring to resist. She uses lawsuits like leashes, and when it doesn't pan out, suddenly she's the traumatized mom of 4 barely surviving. So let's cut the nonsense. Blake Lively isn't some poor flower battered by vicious men. She's the one swinging the wrecking ball. And while Ryan Reynolds absolutely abuses PR power, Blake is the one lighting the fire and then sobbing when it spreads. The muffin kits, the boob cake, the bakery photo ops, the junk-grabbing commentary, the lawsuits, it's all one giant performance. And sorry, but I'm not applauding. Now let's talk about maybe the cringiest subplot in this entire fiasco. The so-called perfect Reynolds-Lively marriage. The one the press crammed down our throats for over a decade, calling it Hollywood's gold standard. Turns out all that glitz was just cheap paint, and the whole thing may have been staged from day one, because here's the tea. Insiders like Candace Owens and an army of online sleuths are asking, was Blake Lively just a beard? Yep, I said it, a literal beard. As in, was Blake cast as the sweet wife and baby machine just so Ryan Reynolds could keep his wholesome, hetero, heartthrob image alive? Because let's be real, nothing about their public vibes screamed passion. It always felt like 2 people reading lines off a script. Siri and Alexa have more chemistry. Ryan Reynolds is now pushing his wife around. That's scary. That's narcissism. From awkward red carpets to interviews dripping with veiled digs, the emotional gap between them was huge. Ryan's love for Blake has always felt staged. Like a guy saying the right things on cue, probably because some PR handler's looming over his shoulder. The real story, I think, is a lot darker and more tangled than that. Now compare it to how Ryan talks about Hugh Jackman. It's not even close. Ryan calls Hugh the best part of his career. He gushes about their bond like it's sacred. They've been tight for 17 years, and he likens their friendship to a marriage. Meanwhile, what does Blake get? A couple of sarcastic tweets and jokes about her being annoying. And no, I'm not exaggerating. Ryan literally says Hugh gives him space to be emotionally vulnerable. That's something he's never once said about Blake. Ever. That's not a slip-up, that's a pattern. It paints a clear picture. Ryan might have married Blake on paper, but emotionally, he married Hugh. And Blake, ever the PR chameleon, went along with it, because it worked for her too. She got the high-profile union, the designer outfits, the lifestyle brand, and oh yeah, the babies. She popped out 4 kids like she was on a schedule because nothing says classic American couple like perfectly curated family snapshots. But peel away the baby filters and forced banter, and what's left? Maybe a woman placed there by Hollywood tradition to keep up appearances, and a man who just wants everyone to keep buying the Deadpool hype. The unfortunate truth? Their marriage might be more about optics than love. Now let's fully break down the Hugh Jackman angle, or what I'd call the real emotional love story buried in all this PR wreckage. Hugh Jackman is 55, newly single, and clearly a core fixture in Ryan's life. Emotionally, personally, maybe spiritually, judging by those weirdly romantic interviews. The flirtation? Not subtle. We're talking innuendo, stage kisses, and public lines that blur the boundary between bromance and full-on Brokeback fan fiction. Ryan outright says Hugh is the person he confides in with his deepest fears. Meanwhile, Blake apparently gets to be the one he shares cookie recipes with, if that. And here's the real clincher. Insiders think Ryan's meltdown over Blake and Baldoni wasn't only about jealousy, it was about control and what might be revealed. Because once Blake's affair went public, it wasn't just the ideal husband facade that cracked, it also raised the question of whether Ryan's been using this marriage to hide something way more personal. Let's not kid ourselves. Hollywood plays this game. Beards are absolutely a thing. PR contracts, arranged romances, strategic babies, all to safeguard your career image. Blake might not be the victim she portrays. She could have been the enabler, the co-architect of a big charade designed for magazine covers and fragrance ads. And now, that whole PR castle is on fire. The second Blake's thing with Baldoni crashed, the mask came off. Suddenly Ryan's jokes stopped being charming, and Blake's sob stories stopped adding up. People started paying attention to leaked audios, tone-deaf baking stunts, and weird commentary about grabbing crotches. Honestly, it's overdue, because this entire mess was one of Hollywood's most carefully orchestrated illusions. Ryan Reynolds, the lovable family man, now looks like a controlling, lawsuit-happy brand freak. Blake Lively, the friendly girl next door, is exposed as a self-centered hypocrite who plays victim while brewing her own drama. And the proof is everywhere. From Blake's bizarre Happy Place bakery tour on March 30th, grinning for the camera despite claiming severe PTSD, to Ryan's team hurrying a smear on Baldoni in the New York Times. This wasn't a marriage, it was a sustained PR mission with one priority: guard the brand, whoever gets torched in the process. But they screwed up, everything blew apart. Commentary tracks got leaked, muffin scandals reemerged, Blake got caught flipping her story like a pancake at a Vogue brunch, and Ryan, who once joked about loving his wife even when she's awful, got exposed for being exactly that: petty, controlling, and likely more into Hugh Jackman than his own spouse. And now here we are. The Reynolds Lively empire caved under its own lies. Not because the media turned, but because they couldn't stop faking everything. Faking who they are, faking what they feel, faking why they got married at all. And Blake, she's not leaving this unscathed. She tried to frame a co-star, twist the media, wave motherhood around like a shield, and spin real emotional cheating into a sob story. But the world's not buying it. Not when the contradictions are so loud. Not when the hypocrisy is so glaring. Not when the cakes are shaped like boobs and the muffins have a side of slavery nostalgia. So next time you see a couple with perfectly curated selfies, stilted interviews, and suspiciously timed baby announcements, ask yourself, is this actual love? Or just another Hollywood act waiting to implode?